Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay. Okay, so this is the session number 4, and the topic will be cross-cultural education, and there will have 3 presenters, and another one presenter apologized. So we have 3 sessions, 3 presenters. So I think the first one will be the Friska from Indonesia, and let me explain about the rule. And each presenter will have about 12 minutes, but because we only have 3 presenters, so probably you can have 15 minutes. It's okay for you? Okay. And so then we will have I'll give some comment and suggestion, and then we will open for all the participants to give some feedback or give some raising a question. Okay, the first presenter, Friska, talking about the qualitative study of learning experience in Indonesian children in the Taiwanese elementary school. Actually, she currently studies at Donghua University as a PhD student. Okay, so should we? Yeah. Should give her a big hand. Thank you. Terima kasih again.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Okay, the first of all, I would like to say thanks for all of you here, and the second, I would like to thanks also for my advisor who encouraged me to join this conference. Before I tell about my slide, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Friska from Indonesia, who is studying now in National Donghua University in Hualien, and I did this study for my final report when I was in master, and I will do my best to explain my slide, and I apologize if I have a wrong sentence in English because I'm not a native speaker. Okay. The topic that I would like to tell you about the qualitative study of learning experiences Indonesian children in a Taiwanese school or in local school in Hualien. The first, I would like to tell you about the background of my study. As we know, Fu in 2013, he stated or proposed that the international students means is a transit visitor to a new or different academic communities, which is have aimed to increase the future of the social, culture, academic life of many countries. And then the Ministry of Education of Taiwan 2007, they state that many of international students come to Taiwan. It's around 170 countries, but the top 5 nations who come to Taiwan, they are Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, and USA. And I would like to describe about Indonesian background, why they come to Taiwan. They have many reasons to decide to come to Taiwan. The first reason about the education system in Taiwan is combined with a theory and course and research. And the next reason, because they consider about the technology and infrastructure of university in Taiwan. And also the most important about the laboratory and about the qualified educator. Educator means here the lecturer, because most of the lecturer in Taiwan was graduate from UK and USA and even from the best university around the Taiwan. And then coming as international students need a lot of money about the financial. How they come study in Taiwan? They got some financial support from kind of a scholarship around Indonesia and Taiwan. The first, some of them will get scholarship from Indonesia government, or is familiar to call DIPTI. And the second support, they get scholarship from Taiwan government. And the last, they get scholarship from university around Taiwan. So here the the story about my research. Some Indonesian international students as the parents come to Taiwan, and then they will study in national university as international students, while their kids who come together with them, they need to get education also, but they are studying in local elementary school. It's quite different with their parents, because the parents as international students, while their kids need to join with the local student in Taiwan. So the research question that I proposed in this study is how these children learn in local elementary school in Taiwan. And the second research question is how do they learn to make sense with shifting the Indonesian education system to Taiwan. And the purpose of this study is it will be helpful for administrator, educator, and also parents who want to ask their kids to join with them for studying and stay in abroad. And the second, I would like to document the personal experience of Indonesian young learners who are studying in local elementary school. But I would like to emphasize all of you here that my study will be focused on exploring the schooling experience of the kids. There are 4 Indonesian kids who are studying in local school. Okay, about the literature review, one of the author, Wahab, in 2014 stated that the multicultural education has been transformed, refocused, and conceptualized in the constant state of evaluation, both of theory and practice. And also, the multicultural education is a concept, idea, and philosophy that should be described and need to equal access to treat for a diversity of learner or student at school. And the next philosopher who is Heng in 2010 proposed the diversity of the students in the classroom. They come from culture, language, race, class, gender, and religion. This diversity need to be equal to be treated for all the students in the classroom. The next, as we know that the social identity diversity of the students in the classroom, there are 5. The first is about the language ability, the second about the culture, and then about the social class, race, and gender. And the next part is about the methodology that I used to conduct this research. My research designs is referred to qualitative narrative, and then the instrument that I used to conduct all the data is observation. I did observation in 2 places. The first is class and also their home, about how they doing their homework at home. And the second, I did also interview, which is about it refers to open-ended interview. I did 4 kinds of participants. They are teacher, volunteer, parents, and the kids itself. And the last, I used also some literature review to make sense for my interpretation. And this is the participant that I collaborate this study. The first is Cindy. She is 9 years old. She is in the 5th grade. And the second participant, he is boy. His name is Andy. He is 7 years old and he is in the 2nd grade. The third participant is Tono. Tono is 8 years old and he is in the 3rd grade. The last participant is Jono. He is 8 years old and the 3rd grade. So Tono and Jono, they are in the classmate. So they have a partner to learn each other in the local elementary school. And in addition, that Andy and Jono, they are siblings. They also have partner to learn at home. The data analysis that I used for this study, I used the theory from Yin 2011. He proposed that there are 5 scales to analyze the data for qualitative narrative. The first is about compiling, decisibling, resembling, interpreting, and concluding. So this is the first step that I use about how to code my data that I already conduct in the field. The first, for the participants' response, it belongs to observation result and then interview response. That's called compiling. And then the second part for the first coding, it refers to decisibling. And the last about the second coding. Second coding is refers to how I can make the first coding become more closer or fixed to my theme that I would like to make the interpretation. This is called reassembling. And this is the next part. After I got this 3-phase cycle, and then I make some interpreting, and the last I make the concluding. The result and discussion. As I explained earlier about the multicultural diversity of the students in the classroom, about language ability, since I say that they are Indonesian kids who are studying in local elementary school, but the most important that I would like to emphasize here that they didn't have any experience about speaking in Chinese, so they cannot speak Chinese at all, but they need to study in Chinese communication in local school. So in this case, the students have find some frustration during their study in the first semester in that school. So how to figure out this problem? The teacher, parents, and some volunteer try to figure out this by making some language program. In this language program, the students, those 4 kids need to learn intensively about Chinese. So the kids need to learn focus for Chinese three times in a week. And then in that program, the teacher need to speak Chinese full so that the kids will be familiar about Chinese. And then they learn about the fundamental writing for Chinese. And in this case, the teacher emphasized about listening and speaking to make them easier to understand about Chinese. And then after having the intensive learning program of Chinese, the kids have some progressing, because in the first they are passive. After having 3 months intensively, they become active. Active means here they can communicate with their classmates, and then they can understand about the teacher's interaction in the school, and about their studying process, like a textbook or doing some homework. The teacher help them by translate all the instruction in the book to their language, like Indonesian language. That's why there are some volunteer, like Indonesian students, who help them to translate all the textbook. But this language program emphasizes them about the speaking and listening. As we know that language is the main important rule in communication. If they cannot speak Chinese, it will be effect to their social interaction. But after having this program, they can find the good friendship with the local student in that school. And the second, also about the academic challenge. After having this program, they are better in communication in classroom. And the second, about the multicultural, they found difficulties about the culture shock, because coming to the new environment, we will have some culture shock. Exactly for them, it refers to the lunchtime. Like in Taiwan, the government provide the lunchtime officially and provide them some lunch box and drink. And it's like a new culture for them, because in Indonesia they didn't have any experience to having the lunchtime together at school. Because Indonesia, they just have a 15 minutes time break, and then they need to go to canteen and buy them bread by their own money. And the second culture is about the school culture. And the school culture, Indonesian and Taiwan, they have the different way in learning, because in Taiwan they start studying in the morning around 8:40 until afternoon 4 o'clock. While in Indonesia they just learn at 7:30 until 1 o'clock. It's like the culture shock also for them. And in addition about the regulation and habit at school. In Taiwan, the elementary students, they don't have any uniform to come to school. They can wear what kind of the uniform or clothes they want to come at school. While Indonesia, they have some regulation from Monday to Thursday, they need to use uniform white and red. And this regulation also like the school culture shock for them. The conclusion that I would like to share you about these Indonesian kids, after having this studying one semester in this school, the kids will have a rich cultural experience, and it can have the good impact for their life after return to their home in Indonesia. And the second, they also have the experience period about the school and learning culture, which is can allow them to expand their social and cultural awareness. And the next part, the students also will be endeared for the immerse of themselves to the local language about Chinese. And the next about the conclusion is they will be challenged themselves to be critical thinker about the cultural differences and similarities in order to make sense of the new place. And the last is about the multicultural friendship and experience that allow them becoming aware and care about new life and can develop a wider and deeper understanding about around the world. Okay, that's all my presentation. Thank you.
Wonderful. And I think I will learn a lot from your presentation. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm host the session. I'm Chen from Taichung University of Education. So I think we will have another presenter, then we have discussion together, okay? Okay, so another presenter is Leechin from study in New Zealand and originally from Malaysia. Okay, so welcome. Thank you.
Hello, sure, everyone. My name is Leechin Heng, and the title of our presentation today is Constructing Inclusion, Exploring how a community of teacher educators work displays in an initial teacher education program in Altaran, New Zealand. So, first of all, a little background on myself. I'm from Malaysia, as introduced, and I've been in New Zealand 7 years ago to pursue studying for the first time. And before that, I've been in Malaysia. I was always been homeschooled, and because Malaysia we didn't have the infrastructure for. We have special schools for people with hearing disabilities, blind people, and people with cognitive impairment, but we don't have any schools for people in wheelchair, so I didn't belong anywhere. So, and currently I'm in my final year of my doctoral study at the University of Canterbury. The focus of my thesis is how a community of teacher educators deconstruct and reconstruct the exploration of inclusion in the new one-year master's level program, pre-service program in Altaran. In 2013, the Ministry of Education sent out a request for proposal with the aims of making education or schooling more inclusive and increasingly diverse populations. And this master's program is the response to that request. And my stance towards inclusion, or my perspective towards inclusion, is that Inclusion draws on different ideas and concepts. There's no one way of understanding or doing inclusion, neither is there a right way or a wrong way to how inclusion should be framed or constructed. As literature review shows, the construction of inclusion in teacher education have been influenced by dominant discourses in special education, neoliberalism, and colonialism. In each of these respective discourses, there is an implicit assumption of norm, such as white, middle class, heterosexual, able-bodied, and anything not within this implicit norm is constructed as deficit, or different, or even diverse. And this space that I'm looking at in this IT program is a contested set. On the one hand, as the Ministry of Education and the teacher educators try to respond and realize the aspiration of society to be more inclusive and respectful of differences in cultures, values, beliefs, or ways of being through schooling and teacher education. On the other hand, the teacher educators are working amid institutional practices in teacher education that are influenced and challenged by, as it challenges, neoliberal and globalized policies. I have used an ethnographic case study as my methodology, which allowed me to enter a given culture, to immerse and explore in depth the implications and challenges of facilitating a teacher education program with inclusion as its underpinning aspiration. I've completed 30 months of classroom observations, 1 focus group, and 6 individual interviews with the teacher educators involved in this program. And for this presentation, I've used the few notes of 3 courses, as well as the interview transcripts from 4 teacher educators. And I've drawn on the theoretical framework of critical discourse. I've drawn on the theoretical framework of critical discourse analysis, which is underpinned by a critical perspective of looking at discourses from a social, cultural, historical, political, and even geological context. Through the problem, through the framework of say, do, be, I explored what the teacher educators say about the problem with the current discourse of inclusion, what they do to reconstruct these discourses in order to work the space where the aspiration of inclusion might be realized. For this presentation, I focused on what particular teacher educators did to reconstruct the space with the previous teachers where inclusion is always a state of becoming. And in this first example, we look at how Hillary often used an image of an iceberg as a point to remind the previous teachers that differences are like an iceberg. There are so many aspects underneath an individual which we are not aware of, including our own, that not only govern what we can think and say, but also what we can think, what we can do, and what can be done to us. So in this way, Hillary critically reminded the previous teachers that to challenge the normative assumptions that there are ways of being are normative and superior, while the ways of being that they see as different from them as inappropriate or even inferior. So what counts as appropriate teaching? Hillary also often prompted the class to critically reflect on what counts as knowledge and who counts as human as informed by Western philosophy. As teachers are often seen as work that benefit them, the students, to become more like us, the teachers, in getting the previous teachers to look inside themselves, it's therefore important for previous teachers to critically reflect on the them and us before they take on the task of helping students to become more like us. In the second example, we saw how Lucy challenged deficit assumptions using the glasses half full as analogy to spin deficits around, to look at what students can do rather than what they cannot do. I asked Lucy during our interview after her class what's her intention of showing to the class a demographic of the current teacher-student ratio. Because in her class she said that research shows that students respond better to teachers whose ethnicity they can identify with. Yet the current teacher-student ratio also shows that it's not going to happen with the current teacher population. So is it still possible for students to feel included in educational settings in our parent resilient? Or even the whole purpose of talking about inclusion, when just the presence of the teacher itself may be a problem rather than solving the problem? So Lucy said that her intention was to challenge the previous teachers to critically think about what counts as responsive education. As she said, it's not realistically possible for New Zealand to place teachers with whom students can identify with. Therefore, in problematizing the current demography, Lucy is critically highlighting to the previous teachers that as teachers, are they there to help educate the students, or is their very presence causing the students' problem by being who they are? Because to the students, the teachers are as different to them as the students are different to the teachers. And in this third example, we see how Robin and Danny attempted to challenge neoliberal discourse, which has set itself up as the only alternative to globalization and economic capitalism. And in its response to society's inequity and injustice is to pull those bootstraps and be just like me, white, middle class, able-bodied, and wealthy. However, Robin asked during our interview, is that what every Maori wants? Is that what every person wants? In his class, Danny often showed us a different way of thinking about what is knowledge through examples of indigenous knowledge, practices, and beliefs. Many times, the examples he used in class happened just the day before, and which he was able to put together for the class by 9 o'clock the very next day. In his adaptive modeling of inclusion to the previous teachers, Danny was also showing to the class he was also challenging what counts as knowledge in teacher education. The way Danny reflexively responded to the class, the atmosphere, and catching the energy in the room, and not just singularly teaching content, but being adapted to the activity, the purpose of learning, and how it can best be absorbed by the previous teachers. So through the findings, we have seen how teacher educators responded to what counts as appropriate teaching, knowledge, response, and effective education through ideas and concepts that aim to challenge deficit assumptions and dominant discourses. In seeing what is the problem with the current assumption of inclusion and working to reorder those assumptions, the teacher educators are also working towards a space where inclusion is always a state of becoming, or aligning to the theme of this conference, inclusion is always experimental education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leechin. And tell you good news. Actually, we only have 2 presenters this session, so we have plenty of time to discuss. Okay, so it's very wonderful that we have 2 topics. The first one, Friska from Indonesia. I think it's very interesting that because in Taiwan it become more multicultural society. So I think it's very important. It seems to me, in Taiwan, we emphasize the multicultural education. We mainly focus on about maybe one of the parents come from Southeast Asia. We seldom focus on the parents, both from different countries. So your folks, your students, the participants, their parents, all from Indonesia, right? So I think it will be an important issue. I think also because some participants here probably you study abroad, and they probably have the experience that your children or your friends' children study abroad, and you need to face the culture shock, and also different ways of thinking, especially in your stories. It's very important that the children cannot speak Chinese, and their parents, excuse me, probably they also cannot understand Chinese, right? So I think it's a very important issue for us to think about it, because recently in Taiwan, with the new policy, we want to have the more good relationship with Southeast Asia. Okay, so then we welcome many students, many people study in Taiwan or work in Taiwan, but we have to emphasize this issue. And okay, I have one question for your research. I think I want to know more about, because we have a lot of time, but probably first it's sort about time limitation. So can you explain more about it, your participants? So probably the two presenters have similar question. What's your relationship with your participants? For you, for Friska, you probably, I want to know, because doing the qualitative research, I want to know that what's your role taking part in this research. And also, I also want to learn more about it. You can speak more, say something more about it, communication with teachers, about especially the teachers, and because the students study in the Chinese schools. So most teachers in Taiwan, they have to face this kind of new situation. They could not understand Indonesian culture very well, especially ways of thinking, ways of study, learning in Indonesian way. So I am very interested about the teachers in Taiwan. How do they work with, how do they teach their the children, both their parents from Indonesia? Okay, so this is my question for your research. It's okay for you? Maybe later, okay? And for Leechin, I think I learned some friends from Malaysia and from New Zealand. Actually, I think inclusive education has become a very important issue in Asia. And in Taiwan, as mentioned, we use multiculturalism to talk about this issue. But also we emphasize the importance of special education in Taiwan. So especially in Taiwan schools, we do the inclusive education, mainly in special education. But I think for the sociology education, we think that it's very important to think about the gender issues and also the race issue in Taiwan. So I think your study is really interesting. Actually, your paper is quite good, but that because probably the time limitation, you can only just give us a very short presentation. So the first question is that I want to learn about with you, about your relationship with this group, the community of teachers, okay? And the second question would be, if possible, can you give more information about your research? Because we can read from her article on the Facebook, and we can read from the full paper. But I think it would be much better if you can explain to us and give more detail. Okay? Okay, so Friska, would you mind? Thank you.
Okay. I would like to try to answer the question from the host. But the first, thank you for your question. So you have two questions, right? The first is about my relationship with the participant, and then about my communication with the teacher at school.
Yes, all the participants. Okay.
Well, the first, I would like to tell you about why I did this research. That's the most question that I would like to tell you. The first, why I do this research, because the parents are my friend. They are my classmates. That's why I have the good communication with them. The first, I didn't know at all about their kids coming to Taiwan to study in local elementary school. But after having some discussion about the living experience in Taiwan, the parents tell me that she have problem regarding to their kids. And then the parents explain more about their kids' situation in their school. And then after having a discussion and sharing, and I responded, the parents sharing, and I have a small thinking, how if I make this become a paper? Because I also can help the other parents who want to ask their kids to Taiwan. So that's the reason I do this research. And then my relationship with the parents is good because they are my classmates, and then because they are my classmates, so easier to me to conduct some data like observation and then interview. And about how I can build communication with other participants like the teacher in the school, right? The first, I went to the school with the parents, and then because I would like to see directly about the school field. And then after that, the teacher in the school cannot speak English well. So both among us have the language difficulty, communication difficulty. And because I have an advisor or a professor in my school in Doha University, and then I tell about this case to my advisor, and my advisor willing to be a volunteer to teach the kids and the parents, and also to be our communication translator during teacher, parents, and all of the volunteer. So in this school we have some people who work together to make these kids to be comfortable to study in that school. The first, my advisor or my professor, who is can speak English fluently. She is our guide to communicate. And then the second, about the homeroom teacher. The most important role here, the homeroom teacher in the school. And the second, about the parents. The parents also have the intensive Chinese learning from my advisor. So the Chinese teacher, in this case, my advisor, and the homeroom teacher, they just help the students to translate and then to make some instruction in the school. And about participant, the 4 participants, they are kids who are enjoy to stay in the new environment, because in the system Indonesia and Taiwan is different, and they enjoy it. That's why they want to stay here and study in local elementary school. So can it answer your question?
Yeah, but one more small question, because from your PowerPoint slide,
Yes.
and the 4 participants' name
Yes.
is different from your article.
Yes, I
So
make.
they make a new name, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the real names in the article.
Yes, I make pseudonym as an ethical consideration.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
So the first question is about my participants.
Yes, relationship with your participants.
So when I did my case study was in the university where I did my doctoral study. So most of the participants are actually people I know already, or people who know me already. And because this program is 1 year, and I observed 4 courses, and the first one is 1 month long, 4 weeks, and I've been there religiously for 4 weeks with them, the whole class. And so I actually had a very good relationship with all my participants because I had been in that class, every classes, for a whole year. One class was 1 month, and the other 2 classes, one class was 1 semester, and the other 2 classes were like a whole 2 semester classes to just about 10 months. So by the end, and I had the interview after the course, all the courses finished. So by the end of that year, I think I had a really good relationship with all the teacher educators. And I think, it's very true that, as researchers, we are not absolutely objective, or we are away from our research, because what my participants say is that they actually are aware of me sitting there, even though I'm trying to be really invincible. But anyway, so my presence to them, me sitting there, actually has an impact on the way they think about how they teach as well. So as a researcher, I realized, by the end of my my fieldwork is that we are not just observers, we're not just sitting there looking at our participants, how they do their things, but our presence itself actually has an impact on the people, our participants, and everything is actually quite mutual as well, including with the pre-service teachers. So it's the teaching educators, the pre-service teachers, and then me. There's 3 kinds of different roles, but we're all know in our respective roles as well. So can I answer the question? Okay. And the second question is my paper. Yep. So it's quite a long paper, and I did that. I think the final version was submitted it some time ago. So at the moment I'm doing my doctoral study and in my last stage. Since last year I was in my last stage. And at the moment I've been trying to finish my PhD and writing up all my chapters now. So since I submitted the paper, I've actually been drafting 2 more chapters, so I'll try to remember what I actually wrote in that paper. So this is part of my PhD study, which I've actually been doing for 3 years now. And what can I say? So my study about inclusion, my interest in inclusion is because I've been homeschooled, and going all the way to New Zealand, I'm also an international student. So in terms of disability, ethnicity, everything to me is just so, there's so many identities, not just about disability and ethnicity, but being an international student in a different place, it's all I don't know, it's just very interesting. And so inclusion to me is not just about, special education, about multiculturalism, or about biculturalism. It's really one person can't be separated into disparate categories of differences. So what I think about how I look at inclusion is not about how to include into a center, like what I've just said before, that white, middle class, able-bodied, heterosexual center, including all these different people who were not yet at this center into that center. After all, it's not about, it's not them. They are just conforming to that center. And do they actually want to be conformed to that center? So it's not really about celebrating differences or diversity in that way. It's not very inclusive. You're only including them into a circle that you feel comfortable with. But you never ask the students, are you actually comfortable to be in that center where you think is actually inclusive? Is it actually really inclusive to them? So that is how I started my study into looking into this program. So this master's program in New Zealand that is currently, there's a lot of immigrants people whose parents are not New Zealander, people whose parents are half New Zealander and not fully New Zealander. And there's a lot of 1.5 generation as well, where they were born in one country, they moved to another country, and they came to New Zealand, which is like, three kind of different, where the students actually themselves don't actually have what they call a root or a background or culture, because they moved so much. And so New Zealand right now is actually experiencing, as well as like, for people, the indigenous people, Maori people, and Pacifica people, like New Zealand signed a treaty in 1840, so that's like 200 years ago, but it's still struggling. Maori people are still struggling to be recognized for themselves, their own knowledge, indigenous knowledge. That's not about, Western culture, how to be the ideal form of beings. And so that is what started this request from the Ministry of Education. Of course, the Ministry of Education wants, to be seen to be doing something about including all children, because the achievement gap is widening between certain people, and a lot of other people are not actually achieving so-called in the schools. And so as wanting to be seen as New Zealand being inclusive to everyone, because New Zealand, it actually depends a lot on international market as well. Like I think a lot of people from Taiwan as well are sending their children to New Zealand to study in high school, especially the last year of high school before they enter the university there. So I guess it's on the one hand it's actually very market talk, it's very neoliberal, and on the other hand, because of this market, like this business capitalism, we also have inclusion that comes along where they want to be seen as doing something. But always doing something is in a way in ideology, and that's why I use critical discourse analysis to look at, to explore what the government actually says they want to do, yet in institutional wise, it's actually not changing its policy of that center where they publish the knowledge of white people, middle class people, rich people, able-bodied people. They are not changing that, but at the same time, they are always saying that we emphasize a lot about inclusion. So as teacher educators, on the one hand, you are doing what the ministry wants you to do, but on the other hand, you're also working against what the ministry wants you to do. So this site that I'm looking at is very contested, and the educators, because I've been with them for 1 year, and I've seen that in a way it's not very easy, because the previous teachers are going out to school. That's actually traditional as well. Some of the schools may not actually, really bother about inclusion, even though yes, every school was trying to tell you we're inclusive. So the previous teachers would, on the one hand, like in this program, they learn about inclusion and all this idea about inclusion, but on the other hand, when they go out to school, it may actually be a very different situation where they can be bumping against a lot of rules and regulations, as well as the principals who might actually tell you that inclusion is, it only sounds good in theory, but it's not practical in practice. So hello? Sorry, I talk too much. So I guess I should. The whole paper, have I spoken half of it? So I guess, yep. So that's mine. I think you can read my paper on Facebook anyway.
Okay, yes. Okay, should we any question from the audience? Okay, Tato.
The children, your children from Indonesia came here, right? When they're that young, they can speak the local language very quickly. They can learn very quickly, right? So did they have any difficulty? I didn't. You may have said something, but I didn't follow it all. The children, were they able to adapt very quickly to the local language, to the local customs? Were there any problems, difficulties? I'd just like to know that, because I went to Paris when I was only 9 years old. Within a month I was able to speak French very fluently because I was very young. And I was able to adapt myself very quickly. I was just wondering whether this took place easily for the children.
Thank you for your question. Actually, the kids also find some difficulties to adapt themselves regarding to language and then the local custom. Well, the first week coming to the school, the kids were frustrated and then decide to go back to Indonesia. And they said, "Mother, I do not want to stay here because I cannot do anything. Even my classmates, they speak and then try to encourage me to communicate with them, but I cannot understand at all." And then the first week is done, and the second week they didn't want to go to school because they cannot do anything. But after the parents and the advisor try to persuade them and then do some motivation and then promise them to go to some beautiful place around the Taiwan, and then they decided to try for the second opportunity. Well, in the second week, they learn Chinese intensively regarding for speaking and listening. Some by watching some the kids movie, and then the Chinese teacher tried to communicate with the simple language in Chinese. And then even it's hard for them to learn Chinese. But the situation, the school atmosphere, and then the teacher attitude to teach them can catch their attention and want to continue to stay in Taiwan. And then after 1 month and the second month, they can adapt themselves for language and some local custom. My personal, I thought because the kids is easier to adapt themselves to the new environment rather than the adult people, because they don't have any or much thinking about this world. That's why they are easier to adapt themselves. That's my response.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, the Chinese character is quite difficult for them to learn, right? Okay, so any question? Okay, please.
I have some curious question about the experience of the Indonesia students' classmates. Yes, and their classmates want to make some friends with your kids, or how the family or the school view about the school of some Indonesian students, how the school cooperate with your kids, and how they learn from the Indonesia cultures, and how they learn from the Indonesia behavior or their language. Have the school put some actions to include the multicultural activities to learn more about Indonesia? Okay, this is my first question. The second one, I learned about your forecast. That you see two of your participants, their family are Muslim, and they cannot eat pork, so sometimes they provide the lunch for the children. But in the ordinary time is that your kids that cannot eat pork, or in Taiwan situation was their parents just they give them some free choice to their meats, or sometimes they just I just miss that pork maybe a very usually food for Taiwan. So your kids their food how they to adapt this kind of situation. Thank you.
Okay, so probably another question for the lady. Okay, and then you respond.
I'd like to answer first.
You want to answer first? Okay.
I'd like to answer first. It's quite a long question.
Okay. Less 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you for your question. I consider that this topic is interesting for us to discuss. That's why you raised some question to this study. Well, yeah, the first question about the classmate response to these kids, right? Well, the Taiwanese students, they are interesting to have friendship with them, with those 4 kids. But the kids cannot do anything, and then they try to hide themselves from the Taiwanese students. So in the first week, for the time break, all the Indonesian students, the 4 kids, they have the small group in the particular place because they cannot understand about the Taiwanese students. And then some Taiwanese students, like the 6th grade, they are a little bit active, try to catch them, and then they are always hide themselves from the Taiwanese. That's the first week. That's why they are frustration and decided to go back to Indonesia. And then about their religion, like Muslim, right? Yes, they are 3 of them are Muslim and 1 Christian. So 3 of them cannot eat pork because Taiwan they prefer to provide some lunch which is have the pork, right? So the parents always provide themselves the lunch box from house, and sometimes they would like to eat the lunch box from the school if it is vegetable only. Even the chicken or some other meat like beef, they are not brave enough to try it because they thought probably it is pork, so they are prefer to eat a vegetable. Can I answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. They say that learning a language is like opening opening the door to a different world. So when the Indonesian children learned Chinese, did you notice some behavioral changes in them that resemble more of Taiwanese, that are quite different from Indonesian kids back home? You get my question?
Pardon?
Okay. It's often said that learning a language opens the door to another world,
Yes.
another culture. So the Indonesian children who started to learn Mandarin, did you observe any behavioral changes in them that resemble Taiwanese children, and noticeable changes that Indonesian children back home would not normally talk or behave in that way?
Yeah, you are right that learning a new language, it will give some new culture for person, particularly for the kids. That during my observation, after having some understanding about the Chinese, they have some new way, the different way to speak even Indonesia. I mean, after having the Chinese language, it affects their style to speak Indonesia. So after, because already done one semester, and then I see their way in speak Indonesia already have a different way, like before coming to Indonesia to Taiwan, because like Chinese, they speak like, oh, Indonesia, they refers to speak like something like that, while Chinese it's difficult, right? After having Chinese language, they become a little bit smooth to pronounce R, something like that. That's the different attitude from their language behavior that I observed.
Any other question? Yes.
I have a question for Leechin. Thank you for your presentation. And the question is, on your slide you mentioned about, when people they behave differently and they feel they have that sense, or other people have the feeling that they behave inappropriate. So I don't know what, if you want to change that mentality, how you, for teachers' attitude, or how teacher can change their mentality. If they behave inappropriately. What they think. Thank you.
That's a good question. I think it's like my examples. Why the purpose of actually teaching about critically looking at oneself in a way, because how we behave, what we think is right and wrong, really is how we have been brought up from our culture, and we don't really know that it's only our culture. We think that's the ideal way of behaving. So by critically getting the previous teachers to look into themselves, to kind of know that they themselves also have a culture, so that they will, when they see someone behaving inappropriately, instead of saying that that person is wrong, they kind of ask themselves first, why do I think that is inappropriate? So that is really the purpose of what this program is about, in teaching the previous teachers to critically think about why they think what something is inappropriate.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, please.
Based on the you answered, I have a follow-up question for two presenters, because both of you mentioned about critical thinking. Can you tell a little bit about what you think about critical thinking? Thank you.
Critical thinking really is about rethinking what we have always assumed to be the norm. Because in New Zealand, a lot of people really don't know they actually have a culture. They always see culture, when they talk about culture, as always what other people have. And they don't understand that they themselves also have a culture. So in critically thinking about, oneself, is really thinking about what I use. Let's say I eat with fork and spoon. That is only about my culture. It doesn't mean that everyone has to eat with fork and spoon, or that anyone who doesn't eat with fork and spoon is inferior. And that is an example of critically thinking about oneself, what one has been brought up to think is right and normal. And I guess this like, by always thinking about oneself and the assumptions one has been brought up with, that when we look at other people in all parts of our lives, not just as a teacher, we kind of like, when we see someone, not say, it doesn't have to be any racially different or even able-bodied or disabled, but just anyone, just you and me, when we think about like once the other person is wrong, why do we think that the other person is, inappropriate? That to me is like, critical thinking. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. In this case, the critical thinking refers to the students or the kids, how they can put themselves in the new environment. Means, in this case, that how the students can see the positive point from the condition that already stay in local school. For instance, if the school before coming to Taiwan, probably they didn't know what is the objective of their studying to Taiwan, or probably they just know they come to Taiwan just traveling or just to stay together with the parents. But after having a multicultural education in local school, their thinking already shifting to be critical. Critical means here they change their mind about their objective coming to Taiwan. Not only just traveling or just stay together with parents, but they get something new about language, about culture, and then about environment, about the different zone that they already stay in Taiwan. So, it answer your question about the critical? Thank you.
Okay, it's wonderful, and so because there's two presenters apologize this session, so probably we'll finish earlier, and Bodhi. Okay, sorry, one more. Okay, sorry, keep going. Yeah, it's okay.
I was intrigued to hear that the reality is not really inclusive in New Zealand, whereas you are doing research on inclusive education. I've lived in New Zealand, and of course I come from the same home country as you. And I'm just curious to know, how would you compare the situation that you're researching right now and the situation in your home country, where it's pretty similar, except that it's not just that it's passive, but it's an active push into segregation. Yeah, segregation and exclusivity, where the education sector, public and private in Malaysia, is actively moving into exclusive segregated categories, 100% Muslim madrasas, which are rapidly expanding across Malaysia, and then Chinese medium schools, and then the national schools, which are rapidly becoming Islamite schools. And then there's now talk about return to English medium schools that would be more inclusive for all the different ethnic groups in the country. So, having done research in New Zealand, what are your views on the situation back in your home country?
Thank you for the question. In New Zealand, there's also Maori school, and there's more and more Maori people going to Maori school, because in the mainstream school, they think that they're always considered as underachievers, and the teachers and everyone in that school just don't acknowledge the culture. So, and there's also deaf school. Deaf people think that they send their children to deaf school because they think it's better for the children to actually learn sign language rather than in a mainstream school where they can actually use sign language and where they're always considered as different. So I think on the one hand, it's really, by choice situation in Malaysia while I've been away for 7 years. And I guess like if we are able to acknowledge differences, then sometimes segregation, as long as people actually are happy with that environment and they think that that environment actually helps their children to learn best to their capacity. And sometimes, like, you know, it doesn't mean that they are more narrow-minded by going to a segregated school. So, and there will be other chances in society where they can actually meet other people as well. So I think sometimes it really is about society, like, you know, acknowledging differences and encouraging or giving people the means to actually know each other rather than just go, because schooling is only one part of life. To answer the question. Maybe not. But I don't know, like, you know, I think it's too broad for my study.
Okay, it's okay, I'll let it be. But I just wanted to know based on your research, how would you view this particular situation of intentional exclusive segregation? That's all. And then my second question actually is homeschooling. You know, I'm just interested to know how you made the transition from homeschooling successfully into a formal education system during your PhD. Could you share some of your personal challenges and triumphs?
Well, I think the time is running out. Talking about my last story here.
Okay, yeah, sorry, because the refreshment is ready, so probably refreshment is ready, so probably we start here, and it's very wonderful that I have two presenters, and thank you for your participation and participation, and have a good afternoon. Yes, thank you.